I'm Leona, back with a new tutorial for all you noobs and not so noobs on what kind of materials you will need for this hobby. Let's start. First off, everything you need for cutting. You have your scissors, no reason to explain that one. You will need a blade to remove some flash and some small tabs. I use an X-Acto knife. Other people like to use a regular cutter, but I think that you have more control of what you're cutting into with an X-Acto. I mean, well, that's why it's called an X-Acto, right? Because it's exact, right? Okay, following on. Get yourself a pair of tweezers. You will need them to handle delicate little parts. I have two types, a straight one and a curved one. The curved one gives you more accessibility for other stuff that I can't think of right now, but you will need one of the two or the two. Up to you. Get your pliers ready. You will need them to remove tabs, and more tabs. Oh, did I mention more tabs? Yes. Also to cut some wire you can pin on your parts for later on. As you can see, I use my pliers a lot and I already made a lot of holes on them, so yeah, we will need to buy some more in the future. The total cost of what you see on the screen, we start with the X-Acto knife because I'm guessing everybody has scissors, so let's just forget about the scissors. $5 for the X-Acto and the X-Acto blades, whatever in the future. I actually have my tweezers from before, so I didn't actually purchase them. But I did investigate. They're for around $1 each on the internet. Go onto eBay, buy them about $1 each, free shipping. So the pliers are the ones that will come up a little high for what they are. You'll get them around for between $3 and $5. Next on the list we have files, and yes, more files. No, not those files, but sanding files. A good assortment of file grades is what you need. These sanding files will work for you to sand off imperfections like seam lines and rough edges. You will need a Dremel or rotary tool. This is so you can have diversity on ways of sanding and also tab removing with the cutting bit, and use a small drill bits to create your pinholes. Putty! Oh yes, there's a big variety. Not everything works for everything and not everything is the same price. So I'll go through them, the cost and also the application first. Let's go with the basic stuff. Tamiya Basic Putty is great for filling small holes and little cracks or gaps. My little tube has gone a long way. I haven't actually purchased anything for the last 2 years, so this is a relatively new piece that I just got in the mail today. It goes around for, well, I got it for $5.99 for shipping on eBay. Normally you will get it for $7 or $8 on a local hobby warehouse or store. In addition to the Tamiya Putty, if you're on the cheap side like most of us, you can use Bondo. Yes, Bondo, the red stuff that a lot of people use on their cars. It works just the same as a Tamiya Putty. It's 3 sizes bigger and it costs about $3. I got mine at Walmart, so if you want to go ahead, just be my guest. You will get the price for your buck. For bigger gaps and repairs, you will need to use an epoxy putty. I use Milliput Fine as it's easy to sand off, dries rock hard, and has 0 shrinkage. You can even put a little water on it to smooth it out when you're using it. The only downside to this putty is it's not really cheap. It's around $12 a package. The good thing is that it does go a long way. You can compare it to Tamiya Epoxy Putty, but considering the price, it's a really expensive product for the amount that you're getting. Milliput gives you 100 grams and Tamiya only gives you 25 grams, and that's for about $7. Zap-A-Gap is relatively new to me, but I have heard good, positive feedback from the people that have used it in the past. They said that they only required talcum powder or even baking soda to fill in the gaps along with the product, and it works perfectly fine for little air bubbles that come in the resin and even little gaps. So if you have some time, go visit Michael's and get it for about $3. Lastly, you can get the dissolved putty. This is also used to patch up little air bubbles or even small cracks. It's lacquer based, so it stinks a lot. Be sure to wear a mask. But the results are great. You can get this for around $5 on eBay. Vaseline is also very important. You will need this to help you when you are repairing joints that need to be filled. This is due to mostly gapping between pieces. So you can just put the putty on one side and put Vaseline on the other side where you don't want the putty on, and just press. You can apply this with a small Q-tip or a brush. Alligator clips are a must. You will need them to handle your pieces for priming and painting. Depending on the size of your piece, you can either use a small clip or a bigger one for the bigger and heavier parts. Some people use screw-on hooks to hang their pieces to dry. That can be another alternative if you don't have any alligator clips around. They're fairly cheap. I got mine at Radio Shack. There were $2 for 10 pieces. So if you have screw-on hooks, just go ahead and use them. If you have alligator clips or want to purchase them, it all depends on what you want, what's your budget, and what you're most comfortable with. Aluminum or brass wire will be required for you to pin your parts. Pinning is very important. It gives support and maintains your pieces in place. It also makes your figure more stronger. That way, so when pinning time comes, just get your Dremel, get one of your bits, measure it against your wire, and that way you'll have a tight. It's primer time! There are a variety of primers out there. Not all will work for GK building. A good example of what not to use is the Rust-Oleum primer for cars. It's very thick and will remove a lot of detail from your figure. I have used it in the past. I hated it. Take my word for it, don't use it. Okay, now for the expensive stuff, we have Mr. Surfacer 1000, part of the Mr. Surfacer family for Mr. Hobby. It's a good primer, specialized for GK building. The only down part is the size and the price, and it goes around for about $10. Tamiya also has a gray and white fine primer, also for around the same price. But if you're like me, you want to get the same result with more product and less money. So I have found that Krylon makes a really good primer you can use for the figure, or figures, or model, whatever it is that you're doing. Almost the same quality as Tamiya. The only difference is that it does go on matte, and versus the Tamiya and Mr. Hobby that goes on glossy and a little bit thinner. I have the gray one and the white one. Both work extremely well. It goes for around $3 or $4 at your local hardware shop, so it actually goes a long way if you purchase it. You will get the money for your buck again. Masking is our next stop. Now, I really haven't found any brands out there that you can use for a cheaper price, so I'm left with only the Tamiya masking tape. It has been by far most the best masking tape I have ever used. I have used a 3M blue one, but I have encountered some paint stripping when I would remove the tape from a piece. So I recommend you only use it in a situation where you actually have no choice but to use it. In this case, if you ran out of your Tamiya masking tape, so it's an option that you can get. Another product you can also use is liquid masking. Mr. Hobby and also Gaia has one, but I have found that the Gaia brand is actually $15 a little itty bitty bottle, so I'll just stick with the Mr. Hobby brand. It's for around $6-7, and it actually does go a long way also. I use it to seal up some areas that are difficult to mask with tape. If you don't want to waste a lot of tape, you can also use clear plastic to cover your parts that don't really need detailed masking. Like for example a leg, where you have a naked leg and the shoe that you just want to paint. So go ahead and wrap around the part of the skin with the plastic, and just after that you're all set to go. Some people use this method to mask. Some areas would be the eyes, and others would just use it to stick a piece for painting without pinning very small or fragile parts. Blue Tech is just as useful in this hobby, so be my guest and go ahead and use it. It doesn't leave any residual coloring, so it's really good. A lot of people ask the same question: what paint should I use? Well, the best answer would be whatever fits your needs. You have lacquer, enamel, and acrylic paints. Mr. Hobby makes the most lacquer paints out there for model painting. They do emit toxic fumes when you use them. You also need a special lacquer thinner to thin them out. Going with the same brand is the best way to go if you want good results. So if you don't have a good spray booth with ventilation and a good mask, don't use them. Lacquers are also very expensive, so they go around for $3 to $4 each jar. Enamels also stink a lot. I rarely use them because even with a mask on, I still get horrible headaches. And it's the same scenario for the lacquers. If you don't have a spray booth, don't use them. Well, at least a lot. Acrylics are the least toxic of them all, and they are alcohol or water-based. Tamiya is a good brand. Model Color from Vallejo is also a good brand, but a little bit more expensive than the Tamiya brand. You can both thin them with 91% alcohol. And you have the regular acrylic paint bottle that can be thinned out with water. Tamiya is around 2.50 or 2.50 cents a jar. Vallejo goes for around $3.25, and the regular Folk Art brand is around $1, so you can actually thin them with water and it goes a really, really long way. There are paints like Creatix brand that supposedly are airbrush ready, but I have noticed that it's not true. It's too thick, so if you want to purchase this paint, be sure to also buy an acrylic medium, like the one from Liquitex, because water will not help dilute it. It will actually help to break away the particles that keep the paint together. Plus, each bottle is for around $3. So you got all the different variety of paints. Now it would be up to you to choose which one is best for you. A few more things you will need along the way are toothpicks. You can also get yourself some glasses to protect your eyes, and the mask for when you're sanding or painting. Sealers are another topic. Some sealers can be used with some paints, but not all. Again, this applies the same as the explanation that I gave on the paints. Acrylic and enamel sealers can be used on lacquer, but lacquer cannot be used on acrylics because it will eat up the paint below. So if you use lacquers, you can use Mr. Clear sealers. If you use enamel, you can use lacquer sealers also. But if you use acrylics, never use lacquers to seal. I use Galleria's varnish, mostly for the matte sealer. It goes on flat and not like Liquitex, that actually does leave like a glossy finish. Tester's lacquer top coat, like I said before, can be used on enamel and lacquer. Some people use it on the Folk Art acrylic paints, and it doesn't affect it for some reason, so you might want to try using it with that brand and not with the Tamiya paints, because it will just eat it all up. If you want a shiny coat for acrylics and the rest of the paint types, Future Floor Wax is acrylic based. Smells awesome, goes for a long way, and can be used as a sealer for any type of figure. Galleria varnish goes for around $6, Tester's dull coat for around $7, and Future goes for around the same price, but if you compare it to the Tester's dull coat can, obviously it's a hell of a lot more, so you get your price for it. Last but not least, painting tools. You have a variety of brushes and also an airbrush. The one that I have is an Iwata HP with top feed. I was lucky to get this as a present because the price is for around $200. But I used to have a Badger 150. That cost me for around $70. That also did a good job. Along with an airbrush, you do need an air compressor. Again, it all depends on your wallet. I have an Iwata Silverjet that I bought on eBay for about $70. It was used, but if you want to buy it new, I think it's for around $150. So I hope this little tutorial, quote unquote, has helped some of you, especially on the budget part, if you want to start off with this hobby. So until next time, Risen Heads, see you around.